The member for Warren Blackwood.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So my grievance is to the Minister for Prevention of Family and Domestic Violence. And the Minister is unwell and puts her apologies in, and I wish her a speedy recovery, and I thank the Minister for Aged Care, Seniors and Women for taking this grievance in the Minister's absence. I want to also acknowledge in the gallery Ms Rebecca Tolstoy AM, founding chair of the Rotary Path of Hope Foundation, and I really appreciate you coming along. These days, there is not a great deal that brings a community together. I represent one of the most diverse electorates in the state. Old timber towns, farming communities, fishing communities, places that have changed considerably in recent years. Some weeks I sit between issues that have divided entire towns, people with very different views, which is why it matters that on this issue there is no division on the need for local family and domestic violence refuge. This electorate speaks with one voice. In December, I used my first grievance to raise the absence of a family and domestic violence refuge in Warren Blackwood. I am using my second today on the same issue, because nothing on the ground has changed. And when nothing changes, it is our responsibility to keep raising it. In December, I told the story of Eve, a woman from Manjimup, strangled in front of her baby, driven from her home. I will not repeat every detail, but her words have stayed with me. If I had been able to stay in Manjimup at a refuge, it would have been better. I know people here. I have support. I worry so much about women who don't have cars or can't get away. A woman in danger should not have to leave her community to be safe. I want to acknowledge the Minister. She came to the electorate this year. She listened and she responded. Not every minister does that. This grievance is a result of doing exactly what she asked. Since December, my office has gone back through the Minister's response and tested it against what actually exists on the ground between Bunbury and Albany. The Minister pointed to a metropolitan local government facility as an example of a locally funded model, so we went to see it. What we found was a centre operating out of Department of the Community's own property, receiving state government funding. That is a partnership model, and it shows that facilities like this depend on state support to exist. The Bunbury Refuge turned away 817 women and children last year.
Shame.
The Busselton Refuge turned away 286 unassisted inquiries in just 6 months. Nearly a third of them were with women with 3 or more children. Outreach from Bunbury matters, but outreach is not a refuge. Not one of these programs has delivered a single crisis bed inside Warren Blackwood. Not one. Since 2017, the Cook government has committed more than $500 million, $564 million to be exact, to family and domestic violence services across Western Australia. The December package includes $14.8 million for new refuges in Albany, Broome and Midland. That is a record of genuine investment, and I acknowledge it. And the Minister has driven that commitment, and she deserves credit for it. But not 1 cent of that $564 million has delivered a refuge in Warren Blackwood. Not one bed for Eve. Not one bed for any of the women in this electorate who have needed crisis accommodation in the 160 days since I last raised this. In those 160 days, an estimated 15,000 family violence incidents have been recorded across this state. That's 1 every 15 minutes. Women forced out of their communities, children pulled from their schools. A return trip from Manjimup to Bunbury takes almost an entire police shift, and some women continue to go back to the perpetrator because the barriers to leaving are simply too high. So we looked at what other governments have done. The Wimmera region in Victoria, broadly similar scale to Warren Blackwood, built an integrated local response rather than telling women to travel. Northwest Tasmania developed a coordinated regional framework, and other governments decided that distance was not an excuse. So did those communities deserve more than Warren Blackwood, or did their government simply take and make a different decision? We're asking for the same decision to be made here. My staff and I have invested significant personal time into this work, hours beyond ordinary office hours, because the issue warrants it. We have a costed model, identified delivery partners, and consulted with community organisations across the electorate. The police union has formally written in support. The community is 100% behind this. This is not a hypothetical proposal. This is practical, achievable, and ready to be progressed. The Minister encouraged me to keep advocating. I have, and the ask is a simple one. One refuge, one place where a woman in this electorate does not have to leave her community to find safety. One refuge that means she does not have to drive hours in the dark. Violence does not pick postcodes, and neither should safety. I want to note that what the Premier said when asked about this recently on the ABC Southwest radio. This isn't necessarily a party political issue. The local member, Bevan Eates, is working closely with the Minister, and I agree with the Premier. This is not a party political issue. We hosted the Minister, the forum happened, the community showed up, the policy work he says they are waiting on, we have done it. It is sitting on the table, ready to be progressed. My staff and I have given considerable personal time to this, not because it is required of us, but because the community we serve deserve nothing less. The community of Warren Blackwood did not ask me which party to work with on this, they asked me to get something done. Eve still thinks about the women who don't have the cars, the ones who can't get away. One refuge would change that for the next woman in her position. If we cannot find a way to work together on this, on the safety of our most vulnerable, then what can we agree on in this place? The work is done, the community is ready, and we are waiting on the Labor government. Thank you.